This is Tar Heel Talk, an in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
As the nation prepares to pay tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King, there are dozens of celebration events happening right here in the Triangle. On today's show, we highlight some of those events and how they honor the life and legacy of Dr. King. And joining me now are two members of the Triangle Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, Rabbi Lucy Denner of Temple Beth Or and Dr. Duma Harshaw Jr., who is the board chair of the committee and pastor of First Baptist Church in Raleigh. Thank you both for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome. So happy to be here.
All right.
It's really our honor, our pleasure.
Thank you. The Triangle Martin Luther King Jr. Committee has a very rich history in the Triangle area and the community in igniting some type of excitement and awareness of Martin Luther King Jr. and his work and life and legacy. Dr. Harshaw, give us some history on this committee and its mission and really the purpose.
This year we're celebrating 37 years. And Mr. Bruce Leitner and many of the community leaders organized some 37 years ago. And after he retired, then we renamed the committee, but we still continue in the tradition of lifting up the heritage and calling people to examine what Dr. King really stood for and what he accomplished. And also to wrestle with the reality that we can apply those principles in the 21st century, and we really need to apply them in our country, but also in our state and in the Triangle this year.
Absolutely. And I know that the theme for this year's events is where do we go from here, which is major.
Yes.
Tough question to answer.
Well, and I think that what is prescient today is how relevant Dr. King's message is now as ever. And that we have to lift up that message to bring that message in the brazenness of the hate we see reemerging in our society.
Yes.
When you talk about the hate that we're seeing in our society right now, we're just coming off the tails of a very tumultuous political season now heading into a new leadership both nationally and here in North Carolina. There are a lot of I guess, mixed feelings about the state of our political climate, of our culture overall. How do you take the work and the things that Dr. King stood for and fought for and apply them to what our country, what our state is experiencing today?
Yeah, well, a good place to start is with our theme, Where Do We Go From Here? But it was the title of Dr. King's last book, published in 1968. Where do we go from here, chaos or community? And we see the divisions across this land, and they're growing worse every day, it seems. And so we are called to build the beloved community, to build bridges to people, and to communicate and deal with the reality of diversity in America. And know that we're all here. We've got to learn to live together. And that's what Dr. King cried out for in the 20th century. And so we got to carry on that legacy and seek not to destroy people, but to bring people together.
It really is about relationships in a time when relationships are more and more scattered and really broken, that people shout out on platforms more than we ever have before and in more diverse ways than we have before, but we're really not talking to one another. We're really not listening to one another. And King's message was so much about love, about looking hate in the eye and offering love as an alternative. And you can't do that on social media. You have to do that face to face.
Excellent point, and something that, as you mentioned, Dr. King talked about so long ago that is still very, very relevant today.
Yes, exactly, because the systems in America have not changed that much. There has been change, we applaud that, but racism is entrenched in the society and history of America. And now we need to just face it and deal with it. And then hatred and discrimination against groups that are different. We really need to deal with that. And it's more than just pushing people away and getting into our own little groups and then throwing rocks at other people. But it really is about learning to deal with difference and learning that we are valuable as human beings. And how do we live together? And how do we build this nation instead of tearing this nation apart?
Right. And this is where the Triangle MLK Committee can be so instrumental and has been so instrumental here in the Triangle area in kind of helping groups to come together to address these issues.
Right, the weekend gives us a platform. It gives us a series of events, but it's only the beginning. Throughout the year, we continue with education for clergy, for youth, for college students, for young adults. And if that does not continue, then really the weekend is a splash in the pan. And that's why the theme is so important. It's taking us forward.
And it's going to take a lot of work, not
Yes.
just from this committee, but from
Right.
everyone.
Every citizen.
And we're really lucky that we have so many good partners
Yes.
here who are working with us in the Triangle. The committee brings together partners from our universities to United Way, and each one takes a part of the weekend and then also makes a commitment to carrying out the teachings through the year.
Right. And you brought up a very important point that this committee is made up of such a diverse group of people.
Yes.
That is what it's going to take because it's reflective of the community in which we live.
Exactly. The reflection of America and the community. And that's where we want to reign, in a sense, a way of speaking, but that's where we want to work.
Right. And I know that there are a number of events some that have already taken place and a lot more to come.
Yes.
And we're going to take a break and talk more about the events coming up and how our viewers can get involved in just a minute.
Very good.
We'll be back with more on the Triangle's MLK celebrations after these messages. Today's show focuses on the 37th annual Triangle Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Celebration. And with us again is Dr. Duma Harshaw Jr., Board Chair of the Triangle Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, and Rabbi Lucy Denner, who is also a member of the committee. Now, before the break, you did a wonderful job of just giving us some history and context to the Triangle MLK Jr. Committee and all the work that's been done over the years and what you have ahead to do. But now I want to talk a little bit about the activities, the events that are coming up tomorrow, because there are a number of ways that people can get involved, and you all have laid out a wonderful number of events for people.
Yes, well, we began with a breakfast that began serving at 6 a.m. In Durham at the Sheraton Imperial. And the program starts at 7:15, and it's interfaith. We ask all the faith traditions to join us and all citizens to be about active prayer. And we want to honor the traditions because that's reflective of who Dr. King was and how he built a network of people from different faith traditions in order to call America to deal with the issues of discrimination. And so it's in that tradition. We pray, but also we work. And then we celebrate the legacy and we celebrate the themes of freedom and nonviolence and respect for human personality and what it means to work together and to be about service and leadership that reflects servanthood. And so we call people together to do that at this breakfast, and it's free to the public.
Right, and so it's important that people get there. I know the doors are going to open very early.
Very early.
And breakfast will start at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And
people will be in line at 5 a.m.
Wow, wow.
The number of people who come out every year is really heartening to see from all over the Triangle, from all backgrounds, sponsorships from corporations, but mostly what we see is individuals coming because the theme and the message of Martin Luther King is so important to them. And we hope that coming together then brings them to sit around the table with those they know and with people who are new to them, to meet each other and then to take that message forward.
And that breakfast will air. Our viewers can watch that on WRAL on that morning, or they can watch it a little bit later on Fox 50. So it's important that if they aren't able to make it to the Sheraton in Research Triangle Park, that they can tune in at home.
And hear a very inspirational message and beautiful music, and see an opportunity to then affirm what we are doing, even though they're not there in the physical form. They can be with us in the spiritual form.
So the program itself begins at 7:15 a.m. And Pastor James White is our keynote speaker. He's been an inspiration all over the Triangle, from his individual church at Christ Our King Community Church in Raleigh to the YMCA, and really to youth throughout the Triangle.
And people can find out more information about the details of all of the events that are coming up by going to your website.
Yes.
And that's trianglemlk.com.
Yes.
Okay. Now, after the breakfast, I know there are several other activities. There's a march that will be happening downtown Raleigh.
Yes, we'll gather downtown at 10 a.m. The march will begin at 11. It's usually led by the Greek family, sororities and fraternities. And then we gather and go to the Duke Center for a program there dealing with youthful ideals for social change.
And is that something new? Because in this particular event, you're going to be bringing together college students from all over the Triangle to have a discussion?
Right, because we want to engage a younger generation. We want to hear from them, but we want them to wrestle with the theme. Where do we go from here? And that can be individual, it can be your particular association, but it definitely is a relevant question for the whole United States of America as we deal with the reality of democracy. Where do we go from here?
Absolutely. And if not our youth, who is going to take up the call? It really is time to open it to their hands, to their ideas, to their innovation, that they can really bring to taking King's message and then bringing it to that next level, and bringing it to a place that we haven't had the opportunity. The Greek group have participated in the past, mostly in the march, but now giving over the 12:30 opportunity to highlight what they can do with the message is going to bring us a whole new area.
Right. And including our youth, our young people, our leaders of tomorrow in this discussion, I think is major.
Yeah, children are involved, youth and young adults.
And that event starts at 12:30 at the Duke Center for Performing Arts.
Yes.
And that'll be students from North Carolina Central University, from Wake Tech, from North Carolina State, from a variety of universities, including Shaw as well, around the Triangle, to bring in students who oftentimes don't speak even to each other. Right. We have all of these colleges and universities right here in the Triangle, and each one stays in their own silo.
So it's important to bring everyone together to start to have these conversations, to start thinking about where do we go from here.
Yes.
And then at 5:30, there is one of my favorites, the musical celebration.
Music and celebration and worship, and it's a time to come and hear some outstanding artists, and to be in fellowship and to worship.
And really to see that time that we're here because Martin Luther King came from a faith tradition. For all of his prophetic message, it came from a deep and abiding faith. And we celebrate faith in all of its backgrounds, and particularly Dr. King's faith.
And all of these events, from the interfaith prayer breakfast all the way to the musical celebration, they are open to the entire family.
Yes, and they're absolutely free.
It's all open to the entire public, whether you've been connected with a King event in the past, whether you're connected with a congregation or not connected with the congregation. We really want everyone to feel free to come from all backgrounds.
Right. And you talk about, whether you're connected with a congregation or not. I know there's some people who know that this is a national holiday, but may not fully understand the significance of the holiday and why we recognize the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. Talk a little bit about that, and just kind of trying to help some of our viewers understand that perspective.
Historically, it's important because he represents a change that took place in the 20th century to deal with a divided America and to destroy laws that dehumanize certain groups of people, African Americans in particular. But it really opened the way and the door for dealing with human rights, period. And that's one reason, but also he gave his life for what he believed in. Mm-hmm. And so he became a martyr for what he talked about and what he lifted up. And so just to revisit all of those issues is vital and important, but also then it gives us inspiration in terms of what we need to do to get involved in the current situation and not just remain on the sidelines and talk or tweet. But it's one thing to do that, it's something else to carry the responsibility and to be engaged. And that's what he calls us to do just by coming together to celebrate his message and his life.
He talks a lot about courage, and that courage leads us to creativity, and that if we don't engage, if we choose to be silent, in essence, we're killing our own souls. Mm-hmm. That a piece of us dies if we allow the Pharaoh of our day, whoever that Pharaoh is, to win over us. That we are better standing in courage than sitting silent in oppression.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very well said. On that note, we're going to take another break. We'll talk more in just a minute. We'll be back with more Tar Heel Talk after these messages. Welcome back to Tar Heel Talk. I'm Sonia Williams. We're talking today about this year's Triangle Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Celebrations. And with us again is Rabbi Lucy Denner of Temple Beth Or and Dr. Duma Harshaw Jr., pastor of First Baptist Church in Raleigh. Both are members of the Triangle Martin Luther King Jr. Committee. And I thank you again for being with us. It's important, I think, for our viewers to know that, yes, this is a national holiday. Students don't have school. A lot of people have the day off from work. But Dr. King was very big on service. And so a lot of people say this is a day on, not a day off. Talk a little bit about the service component of this year's celebrations.
It's very much a part of the King celebration that we not only speak and gather for our breakfast, for our march, but we also take our hands and immediately put them to change in our community. And so for the past almost decade, we've linked this day not only to celebrations and commemorations of King's life, but also to ways that we can get involved in the community, hands-on, whether it's going to a shelter for homeless children and giving them a play area, a study area where they can study together, or if it's working in community parks at the Salvation Army. The United Way coordinates the day of service, and Durham originally worked hard to establish it in our area, and it has spread now to the entire Triangle, and we encourage everyone that we're not going to take this day and turn it into another celebration of our retail society. Right. But instead, this is a day on, as you said. It's a day to put our hands to work in the words that we believe.
Right, and helping others.
Yes, yes, and to make a difference in our society.
And people, there are a list of all the events or a lot of different service activities going on throughout the Triangle on your website, trianglemlk.com. So people can go on. There's no excuse because you've outlined a number of service opportunities and activities as well that will be taking place tomorrow.
And many of them you can show up on the day of. Some of them you had to pre-sign up for, but many you can come on the day of and be a part of service and learn how not only you can serve on that day, but our hope is that through the inspiration you get from service, that you'll dedicate yourself and your family to coming back month after month, we hope even week after week, to solve the problems of hunger, of the economic disparity in our community, of the youth who have nowhere to go after school. So there's so many issues that we can take up with our hands that we can make a difference coming together as a community.
A number of opportunities and lots of help that's needed throughout the community.
Yes.
When you talk about the purpose of this day of celebration, I know Dr. King, he spoke of and dreamed of, if you will, a colorblind society, a place where, a world where people were judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. When you think about the time in which he spoke those words and what we're experiencing today from shootings and other issues in our society, have we made any progress since Dr. King's time?
That's a very good question, and basically the answer could be yes and no. You can't deny that there has been progress and things have changed, but the change is not sufficient. We must keep working, raising awareness, but also reaching for that dream that he talked about, and the beloved community where everyone is somebody, everyone has something to give, every life is valuable. And still the whole issues of war and violence are still very relevant. He often talked about the fact that if we didn't wake up to the fact that we need to learn to live together, well, then we would perish together. And it looks like we're on that track if we're not careful. And so his message is profound, it's prophetic, and really it is something that we really need to take seriously.
In some ways, I believe what we're seeing today is an uncovering of the veneer of the hate that has been dormant for the most part beneath the surface, and now once again people feel emboldened to shoot in public, to take lives into their own hands, and really to make nothing of life, for whether it's for race, for religion, for orientation, whatever the excuse, xenophobia has emboldened them. And therefore, King's message, perhaps we are at a better place in many ways. People are at, there's less poverty in some ways, and yet there is a different type of oppression. There's a stealth oppression that holds people back in our society.
Why should people participate in tomorrow's celebrations and other activities?
Because it inspires you to see how you can make a difference. It empowers you to see with a different set of eyes, in a way of speaking, in order to see what really is happening in this country. It awakens you to reality as opposed to being pacified by materialism and dreams and nonsensical discussions and tweets and media to get to the real issues that really are about life and death.
I think that Dr. King has a universal message, and his universal message cuts through the pain and divisiveness. No matter where you were in the last election, everybody came out feeling that they were bifurcated from the other. Some family members pitted against each other. And Dr. King taught us how to sit down across the table with one another, how to take the values that are core values for all of us from every background, for justice, for peace, for righteousness, for human life and dignity in all its forms.
And again, there are a number of activities taking place tomorrow. People can go to your website, trianglemlk.com, and find out about all these activities and how to get involved. Dr. Duma Harshaw, Rabbi Lucy Denner, thank you both so much for the work you're doing in our community, and thank you for being our guest today.
Well, thank you for helping us promote.
Okay.
We really appreciate it.
All right. That's it for this week's Tar Heel Talk. To comment on this or other episodes of the show, follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or send us a message to tarheeltalk@fox50.com. I'm Sonia Williams. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week.